Finally, Funko has announced SDCC exclusives. What's up, guys? I'm DK Wrestler, and in today's video, of course, we are going to be talking about the newly announced San Diego Comic-Con exclusives for 2024. And I'm sure a lot of us have been waiting for this, even to the point where I had called out Funko on social media about it, and they replied telling me to be patient. But as I'm recording this, Funko did begin those San Diego Comic-Con exclusives, so we're definitely going to be talking about each and every single one of them. So let's get right to it. And the first of those San Diego Comic-Con exclusives are a Batman and Superman fusion, which I believe this was like the very first pop that was leaked for this convention, so a lot of people knew about this, but seeing the glam does look really nice with how the red and the blue pop off. And normally I'm not really a big fan of these kind of mashup pops, but this one kind of works for me, and it makes sense because this year is, I believe, Batman's 85th anniversary. The next pop that was announced is a classic Godzilla, which this actually looks pretty decent. I like how the green and the yellow pop off really well. Not entirely the biggest fan of Godzilla per se, but I know that, and I'm looking at the comments here on Instagram, that a lot of people are pretty hyped as terms to this pop. The next pop that was announced is a Beagle Scout Snoopy from Peanuts. Now, I believe if I'm not mistaken, we got something similar to this earlier in the year, so it isn't entirely too exciting, except I believe that pop that I'm talking about was like a 6-inch pop. Well, this is a 4-inch, so if you didn't want to get the 6-inch form, then the 4-inch, I guess, is your best option for San Diego Comic-Con. The next pop announced was Papa Smurf from the Smurfs. Now, I know that a new set of Smurfs pops did get announced, with one of them even having a chase, so adding another pop for a convention definitely makes sense, especially for a character like Papa Smurf. Up next is a Vaporizing 001 Pop Deluxe from Stranger Things. Now, last year at San Diego Comic-Con was the announcement of the very first 001, aka Henry Creel pop, and since then we have gotten more 001s after 001s after 001s or Vecnas, after seeing all of those Henry Creel pops for the last year, that I just am not too excited about this pop, but maybe my co-host MD Shady is, since he does collect the Stranger Things lineup. And next up, we have ourselves a set of TMNT Biddy pops, which in set 1 we got ourselves Leonardo, Michelangelo, April O'Neil, with the following set being Donatello, Shredder, and Baxter Stockman, another set featuring Splinter, Raphael, and Rocksteady, and then the final set being 8-bit variants of Raphael, Donatello, and Leonardo. Now, as I'm recording this video, I have no idea about what the possible mystery figures are for each of these, but I think this is basically the same thing that we gotten with the original TMNT Biddy Pop set, except now it is more of that comic book sketching effect. And little known fact, if you didn't notice on the glam shot, this will be limited to 4,000 pieces, therefore this probably will be a con-only Biddy Pop set, which I'm totally fine with, because of course I think these would sell better as limited piece counts instead of the abundance we're seeing at, let's say, our local GameStop or Hot Topic that are just kind of sitting on the shelf at the moment. Next up for the Disney lineup, we have ourselves Protozoa from Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century, and this pop will be limited to 4,000 pieces. Now, it's pretty cool to actually see a pop from Xenon. It's been a while since I've seen the show, so I don't really know too much about this character, but if I'm not mistaken, this whole set of Disney pops were a part of the Disney 100 set. Continuing on the Disney hype train, more specifically Pixar, is a new Edna Mode from The Incredibles. Now, although I did see the leaked photo of this, I was a little bit surprised, but not surprised that we're getting Incredibles for this convention, and I really like how they did Edna Mode, considering that OG Edna Mode is pretty expensive, so if you never got a chance to get that pop, then you do have a better chance of getting this pop as terms of San Diego Comic-Con. And my other point is the fact that I believe this year does mark the 20th anniversary for that OG Incredibles movie, so who knows, maybe for New York Comic-Con in a couple of months, we will be getting another Incredibles pop. Hopefully we get like Syndrome or something. We got ourselves a new Kermit the Frog from the Muppets. Now, originally this was something that I believe was leaked for C2E2, but never came to fruition, and I did see the pictures surface across social media, but I didn't think that it was going to be a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. I thought it was just going to be a common, since the pop actually didn't have a convention exclusive sticker on it. And to find out that this is the Muppets pop that we are getting for San Diego Comic-Con is kind of a little bit disappointing. I was hoping for something a little bit more exciting. Next up, we have ourselves a beach attired Zero from Nightmare Before Christmas, alongside a glow-in-the-dark version of this pop, which will be limited to 3,000 pieces. We did get the beach attired Nightmare Before Christmas pops a few months back, so I guess it makes sense that they are making convention exclusives, and I'm not surprised at the whole fact of doing one version that's going to be a common and one version that's going to be glow-in-the-dark and a limited piece, because they even did that last year with WonderCon with the gelatinous cube from Dungeons and Dragons. So I think that's kind of a trend, and we do kind of see that trend when it comes to San Diego Comic-Con this year also. Next up, we have ourselves a 6-inch Bandage Baymax from Big Hero 6, which there's going to be a regular version and then a glitter version limited to 1,500 pieces. See, this is what I was talking about, an ongoing trend that even is continuing for San Diego Comic-Con, where we get one regular version and then some specification version that's a limited piece count. And from the glam shot I'm looking at, that glitter pop actually looks pretty decent, even though I've never really been a fan of the glitter / diamond collection pops. Up next is a Project Fred Deadpool. This is absolute fucking garbage, and that's all I'm going to say. Mr. Sinister from X-Men. Now, I believe we had some sort of Mr. Sinister pop like a few years back, maybe as a Walgreens exclusive. I think it's all right, but from what I last remember, I think I like that other version better than this one. Now, moving on, for the Star Wars lineup, we have ourselves Grand Admiral Thrawn from the Ahsoka TV series, and then a Darth Vader, plus a Diamond Collection Grand Admiral Thrawn that's limited to 3,000 pieces, thus being convention only. Once again, continuing that trend of regular and specification limited piece count version, which this Grand Admiral Thrawn is alright, and the Darth Vader actually looks pretty sweet. I did see that leaked photo of it, but from what I've seen so far, the glam shot actually looks better. Next up is for the anime One Piece, and it's a scented version of sugar. Now, I can only imagine that the scent involved with this pop must mean that it's sugar, or something very sugary like candy or something, based on what the character looks like and what the character is doing. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves me correct, we haven't gotten a pop of sugar. Next up, we have a pop of Satoru Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, for the last couple of years, we've gotten quite a bit of Jujutsu Kaisen Comic-Con exclusives, more specifically of this character. Now, I'm not too sure what is beneath his foot there in the pop, whether it's some sort of item or maybe perhaps a head. If it's actually a head, that's actually pretty crazy and pretty gory detail, realistically. Next up, we have Shinobu Kocho from Demon Slayer. Of course, I most likely butchered that name because I can never pronounce the majority of anime names correctly, but this one is a little bit bland because we have seen, I believe, a couple of Shinobu pops already in the Demon Slayer lineup. Like I had mentioned, with the sugar pop from One Piece, it's always exciting to see maybe even a first time ever character be made into pop form. So to see just another pop of a character we've seen multiple pops of already just doesn't excite me all that much. Next up is another version of Gaara from Naruto Shippuden. Now, this one doesn't excite me because I swear we have seen something identical to this within the last couple of years. Like, I could have sworn it's like the Hot Topic exclusive we've seen, but maybe it's a slightly different pose. So this doesn't really excite me all that much. But something that does excite me is, of course, the Elemental Hero Flame Wingman from Yu-Gi-Oh! And this thing is chef's kiss. This thing looks fantastic. I did see, of course, the leaked shot that was posted on social media, but to see the glam shot of this looks really nice, and of course, I will 100% be getting this. Next up is a 10-inch Arceus from Pokemon. Now, it looks like they're continuing on the trend from C2E2, where they're making a 10-inch pop of a Pokemon that has never been transformed into a pop before, which I kind of like that. It's better than just having the specification versions of already existing 4-inch Pokemon pops, but at the same time, it does take up a lot of space in your collection, so I don't like that aspect. Next up is a pop of Marvin the Martian with Flag from Looney Tunes. Now, I think this pop is okay. I don't think it's as good, in my opinion, as the Egghead Jr. we got a few months back for C2E2, but it's still cool that we are getting some Looney Tunes pops for conventions, since normally Looney Tunes pops do pretty well. Next up is a 6-inch Voltron, which is going to be limited to 5,000 pieces. And I'm actually not surprised that Voltron is a limited piece count, because if I'm not mistaken, some of those original Voltron pops were only exclusive in Asia. So to kind of expand it here for for San Diego Comic-Con makes it actually a better chance of getting this than to get those original Voltron pops. I could be wrong though, but I swear that there definitely was some that were exclusive to Asia for the most part. Next up is a pop of Elmo with Rocco from Sesame Street. Now this is pretty decent actually, because we are just getting the return of Sesame Street pops for the first time in a long time. We seen the first part of that at TargetCon earlier this year with the Elmo on Trike pop rides, and now we have another Elmo pop, and this time with Rocco, and it does have a lot of people hyped. People are mentioning about only the OGs remember Rocco, and I think my only gripe about this, and a lot of people have mentioned on social media, this pop should be flocked, but that doesn't stop people from most likely going to be getting this as terms to this year's San Diego Comic-Con. Next up is a glow-in-the-dark Lord Soth from Dungeons & Dragons. Now, I never, for the most part, have anything bad to say as terms to Dungeons & Dragons because they're super detailed pops and they never really disappoint me, even though I don't play Dungeons & Dragons, nor do I know much about Dungeons & Dragons besides the little bit I know thanks to Stranger Things. Next up is an Expecto Patronum Harry Potter from, of course, The Prisoner of Azkaban. Although on the box it probably wouldn't say Prisoner of Azkaban, it's definitely based off of that Prisoner of Azkaban set that was released earlier this year in time for the anniversary of the movie, especially since this definitely is based off of that near ending scene where he's casting the Expecto Patronum spell to get rid of the Dementors so they don't suck the soul of Sirius Black. So I guess this is an alright pop, but I don't know, I felt like it could have been better. The next pop announced here is a pop moments of Enid and Wednesday from, of course, Wednesday. Now this is actually pretty cool. This is basically the dorm room for both of the characters, and maybe for New York Comic-Con, can we get the wolf version of Enid as a pop? We have ourselves a Wicked Witch of the West with Winged Monkey from Wizard of Oz. Now this is a little bit meh. I feel like you could have done better, especially for a lineup like the 85th anniversary of Wizard of Oz. Cool, we have a different version of the Wicked Witch, but with the Winged Monkey, it's basically like the same thing we got with the two pops, but just in more of a pop and buddy form. Next up is a pop of Diggum Frog with Cereal from Honey Smacks. Now this is kind of a little bit disappointing, especially for you ad icon collectors, considering that I feel like the common version of Diggum Frog is almost identical to this, except it doesn't have the cereal in its hand. And I feel like the only reason you probably would want to get this is either because somehow Honey Smacks is your favorite cereal, or because you could never obtain that original. The next exclusive item is a Funko Airways t-shirt. Now, usually for the most part, I am a fan of the t-shirt, but this continues the trend of something I hate about the t-shirts, and that's having a small logo on the front and then a massive logo on the back. I'm always a fan of when they just do the massive logo on the front and that's it. Then we got ourselves a Funkoville Biddy Pop set. Now this is okay, but the only gripe that I have is that I wish this was a limited piece count, considering that there's no mystery figure for this. And then we have Funko Soda figures of Fun Mart Freddy and a Can of Corn Freddy, both limited to 5,000 pieces, which these do look pretty cool, and I am happy to see that Funko Sodas are still going on, because we were all led to believe that Funko Sodas were kind of canned out of Funko's system, which that wasn't supposed to be a pun intended. The only thing I don't know is, are these singular cans or are they cans with a chase? And now as I realize in the Can of Corn Freddy photo, I don't know if you guys noticed this, on the bottom left it says 5,000 pieces, but on the can it says 9,500 pieces. Which piece count is it, Funko? Mayor Freddy Funko, which is going to be limited to 3,000 pieces, alongside with a Drive-In Franny and a Pizzeria Proto, both limited to 1,500 pieces. Of course, I'm not surprised this was something that happened at C2E2, where we got limited piece Freddy, Franny, and Protos all being 3,000, but this time around it looks like Freddy is going to be still 3,000, but the others are going to be lower pieces, which is a little bit disappointing because, not gonna lie, I am really a big fan of this Pizzeria Proto. I love the way that it looks, the way that the mustache is, and the fact that it's 1,500 pieces makes me a little bit upset, because maybe this could have been the very first Proto Pop into my collection. Anyways, guys, that's gonna be the end of today's video. If you enjoyed today's video of me talking about the upcoming San Diego Comic-Con exclusives this year for Funko, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know down below on what your favorites or even least favorites were from this convention, and hope to see you guys in the next video. 1, 2, 3, I'm out of here.